figure out along the way what you're really good at. What's your superpower? You all have it. Every player has something. Some are really fast. Some can score goals. Some can run longer. Some are just more technical. Figure out with your coaches, your parents, yourself, what is your superpower in the sport?
Welcome to another edition of the Destinations Podcast. Today, I'm so excited to introduce Chris Armas, who is the head coach for the Colorado Rapids soccer team in Colorado, U.S.A. And he is cross-cultural. So we're going to talk about his upbringing and how that influenced who he is in his career. I'm so excited because I was able to meet him at a banquet for the Rapids, and his personality is so explosive, so engaging, and I think you'll find so as well. So, Chris, thank you for coming today.
I'm happy to be here with you. You're the reason I'm here, and to share a little bit of the story. But that night we first met, it was important that when you said, "Hey, can we make this happen?" Yes. So yeah, good to be here and to connect for a little bit.
Thank you so much. Well, I was so intrigued because you were on stage talking about your background and what it means to you. So tell the audience a little bit about your cultural background, how you grew up, and then your journey to get where you are now.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride. But I was born in New York, in the Bronx, inner city, to a Puerto Rican mother who was born in Puerto Rico, and to a father who was born in Manhattan, but his parents are Cuban and Italian. My grandfather on his side was born in Cuba, Havana, and he got on the boat and got over here to Florida and then New York early on in the journey. And we moved out to Long Island at a young age for me and my brothers. When I was 3 or 4 years old, into a town called Brentwood. A lot of Spanish, black families, but I had an amazing family, amazing upbringing. So blessed with the family that I have, but we are humble people, always have worked hard, and both my parents grew up in the Bronx and brought up a family of 3 boys, and then from then on till now, it was always work as hard as we can, fight for everything we could get, and just take every opportunity that would come our way. And for me, there was always opportunity. And soccer has taken me a long way, but there's a lot to it in terms of the foundation that my parents and their parents set that enable us to open the doors. And it was always about hard work, no excuses, put your head down and just every single day to be the best you can be.
Nice. So when did you start playing soccer?
Probably at 5 years old in Long Island, local called Intramural Soccer Club in Brentwood. I was a kid that loved to run around and play, and my parents, my dad was in the streets growing up playing sports, basketball, baseball, the more popular sports in New York at the time. But in Long Island, there was a lot of children playing soccer. And I played a few different sports, but at that young age, 5 or 6, me and my brothers, we played in the local club team.
And that was in the 70s, right?
Early 70s. I was born in 72, so it's from 72 to 80 probably.
So it's interesting. I mean, you've watched the evolution of what football around the world is soccer in the United States and how it's changed over time. What does that feel like?
It seems like a different lifetime, actually. The at the essence, it's play, right? So the way the 5 and 8 year olds were doing it back then, it's the same stuff now. Just better coaching, and the coaches know more, so they can do more, let's say, but there's more coaching courses, coaching licenses for coaches, so they have a little more education in the sport. there's a more robust professional league now than then. So the little children, the 5, 6, 7, the 10-year-olds back then didn't have a whole lot to look up to. We were looking up to the New York Yankees, the baseball players, and then you can see out there Pele, Maradona in '86. Now they can see it in the backyard. There's 30 Major League Soccer teams in most of the major cities, but these children nowadays have much more to look up to. There's a pro league, there's a second division, there's a third division, there's television that shows football playing around the world in any country that you want to see, South America, Europe. So it's just come such a long way. It does feel so different in many, many ways, but I don't forget what I teach now is to still remember the roots and the essence, which is play and competition.
So you started in little leagues, and then where did you go? So you continued to play until, all through college, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, like I said, there was always another step. There was always a door waiting for me to go through. But it was the natural progression for a boy or a girl in these days born in the United States is club soccer to travel soccer, hopefully to college. I went to Adelphi University. It was a college in New York. It was a small Division I program, liberal arts college. I got a full scholarship to play there. It was going to have to be some help. My brother, actually my older brother by a year and a half, went to the Naval Academy, a very prestigious
I tried to get into the Naval Academy
institution, which he needed sign off from his local. Yeah, you needed representative to endorse him. He didn't get direct entry to it. Didn't have the standards and the approval, but he went to the preparatory school for 1 year, then got in. He was determined. So again, my parents didn't have to pay for that education. It was going to be something we needed help with. But I did get a full academic and soccer scholarship, but most of it was athletic grant. But played 4 years at Adelphi. And in 1994, I graduated. And at that stage, there was only talks about a Major League Soccer coming, which started in 1996. So for 2 years, 2 seasons, I played for the Long Island Rough Riders. It was a semi-professional team, 6-month contract. There was about 70 teams in the country scattered in these smaller leagues. But I got to, for the first time, you were making a little bit of money to play soccer in front of people, signing some autographs. That was the introduction to professional soccer. I got drafted in 1996 to play for the LA Galaxy, and that started my professional career.
What did that feel like to be drafted to a professional team?
It was a dream realized, really. I mean, you knew all of a sudden you'd be playing amongst the best players in the country and from around the world, because they were bringing players from around the world at that time. But to think about playing now at Giant Stadium, at the Rose Bowl, at the big venues, this is what I always dreamed about. And never, my mother would say, well, I was in college, and I was a good student. I graduated with honors from college, but I didn't have the passion for the academics. I knew that if I didn't bring home good grades, I'm in trouble, type of thing. But that was the avenue to get to soccer. My mother would say, what do you want to do? I want to play soccer. She's like, well, there's no professional league. How are you going to do that? I go, you asked me what I want to do. I want to play soccer. I'm going to do it somehow. And there wasn't really a pathway to Europe or other parts of the world at that point in our country's time, which is very, very different now, having Americans playing overseas. Although there's a few. But I said, Mom, listen, you asked me, my passion is soccer. I want to play. So then when you finally get drafted, there's no words. It's a dream come true without even kicking a ball at that level, because you knew in some ways you've made it.
And what did your mom think when that happened?
Same. As now I know, your children's dreams are your dreams. So I knew that she was thrilled for me. She knew that. She probably thought, son of a gun. He said it. No one knew how, but it was bittersweet. I got drafted by the Galaxy. My family was in New York. I was moving away as a fairly young guy. going to be on my own, but I had to chase it.
Nice. Well, so at what point in your career, when did David Beckham come over to the U.S.? And do you feel like that was a major change for soccer in the U.S.?
That was a big one. The league started in '96. He came over, I believe, in 2007, which ironically was my last season playing. So '96, that was my 12th season. So you can include '96 and then '07. That ends up being 12 years and in Major League Soccer. But Big David Beckham, that profile put us on the map in many ways. It brought global spotlight, the way Lionel Messi is doing now, in a bigger way. But he's an icon, Beckham. And I played against him. It was the last game of the season for us. I was in Chicago then. I got traded in my third year in the league. I spent 10 years with the Chicago Fire of Major League Soccer. But it was the last game of the regular season. Chicago was playing against L.A. Galaxy, Beckham's team. Played against him that day. We ended up winning 1-0. But the winner of that game was going to go to the playoffs. It was a very dramatic game. We ended up winning at home, full stadium, because Beckham's in town.
Yeah.
But that was his time in the league. Really, I think, was a special time, a real first boost, I would say, because there was different international players called designated players, these marquee type of signings. But he was something special.
Yeah. I mean, coming from an international family, it was really nice to see him bring that stature to the U.S. in terms of soccer, and to see it, in my estimation, explode after that. And how did it feel for you? So, from then you journeyed into being a coach, right?
Yeah.
And
well, listen, the professional playing career, that 12-year span was full of there was really no off season. 8 of those years I was on the U.S. national team, getting to experience international football. Playing in different countries, playing in Russia, going to Morocco, going to France. This was a whole nother experience, experiencing different cultures. But internationally, you go to different cities, Ireland, this was something very special. But as I got older as a player, I became one of the leaders of the team, and then a captain of the team. And then you start thinking and talking more like a coach, and you're playing and talking like a coach out on the field. You're an extension of the coaching staff. But I always, from a little kid to college to professional, I loved my coaches. They had such an impact on me. I revered them. I watched how they spoke, what they said at halftime, when they were up in the front of the tactics board. They always impressed me so much. I used to look at the muscles in their legs. As a young guy, I'm like, I want to be a coach one day. One day, they just look so cool to me, like these guys that again, when you're 13 years old, looking up to your coach, I thought they were so interesting. But I only wanted to be a player back then. But I revered them. They're still in my life, all of them. They had such an impact on me. But I think there was seeds being planted then. I got a degree in physical education. I've always been good with maybe articulating, coaching, and with patience, delivering messages to people. And I thought at some stage I might be a coach. And in my later years, I knew that would be the next thing, but I couldn't think about coaching when I was playing. Right. Even when I retired from playing, I moved back to New York at the end of '07, so December of '07. And then in January of '08, one of my friends got named head coach of that current team I was just playing on. And he says, Chris, you have to come back to Chicago and be my assistant coach. I said, I'm putting my house up for sale. I'm back in New York, man. I'm not coming back. He's like, you have to. I need you to be part of this project. Me and my wife got on a U-Haul. We moved some things back to Chicago, left the for sale sign on our house, but I started the coaching journey. And that year, I had my hip was giving me some trouble. It was a career-ending type of injury, but I was 35 years old. How much longer was I going to play without that? But it was so much wear and tear. But my body had said, I've had enough. I had too many injections at that point to try to keep this thing going. Yeah. But my mind and my heart wasn't ready to retire. I've never done a drug in my life, I promise you, but it felt like this having to wean off of a drug. I wasn't ready for that.
Well, I mean, the huge stadiums, the adulation, that's got to be a next level high.
It's what I knew my entire life. It's what I've always loved. And what I didn't know how I'd feel, but now you start coaching and I'm getting into it. But in my mind, I'm still good enough to play, but I'm coaching. This doesn't feel right. It kind of does. It just took a little bit of time. So at the end of 2008, I coached for 1 year. Then I moved back to New York to be around my children, who at that stage, my two boys, in 2008, call it 2009, because it was January of 2009. One was 8 and one was 5. So 5 and 8 years old. My wife had done so much of the work when I'm traveling, coming and going. She was the rock for them. And my schedule allowed for me to be around a lot in afternoons and off seasons, but I wanted to be around for my boys the way my dad was for me and my mom. So I moved back to New York, plant the roots, and I said, I don't care what I do. I want to get a job that I'm around, which I started teaching a little bit. I got a job. My high school offered me a job at St. Anthony's High School. It's a Catholic school in Long Island. And I was looking after a new facility that they opened. They just helped create a role for me, and then something opened up in the phys ed department, which I had my degree, and I started teaching. But I was on my kids' schedule. I was around for them, and when they got home from school, I was off on the weekends. I was off in the summers, and I was willing to do that for quite some time, but I did that for a couple of years, and then I think it was 2 years, and then a job opened up at my university, Adelphi. I was volunteering my time at that stage on the men's team and the women's team. The women's job opened up, and they asked me to interview. I interviewed. I got the job. I spent about 3 years there. And in between those two jobs, I was doing some work at a local soccer club, making a little money, saying, listen, I've made a little bit of money, not a ton of it, but we can go into savings if I have to, just to make this life work for us, being around the boys. But then the Adelphi job was interesting, and because I was, again, some flexibility in the schedule, coaching, but I'm coaching college soccer, and I'm coaching now. And that kind of started the journey. My phone rang, so now from 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, so 6 years of a couple in the high school, a little bit of youth soccer, 3 years at the university, and then the New York Red Bulls called. My friend got hired as the head coach, Jesse Marsh, and he asked me to become his assistant. And I was so comfortable with what I was doing and happy with the balance I had in my life with work, and I loved these kids I was coaching, the student athletes at Adelphi. My kids were part of all of that. They'd come to the games. We'd go to the training field some days. I was running some soccer camps, getting 100 kids a week, for 2 weeks in the summer. My kids were in those camps. It was really a good situation. My wife said, you have to take this. I'm not letting you say no. She thought there was something more for me, which I knew that she was right. I said, no, I'm not. And I declined the job. But they called back, and she says, you're taking it. She kicked me out the door, essentially. But in January of 15, I started the journey. So I was there for a few years with the Red Bulls. I became the head coach 3 years later, in 18. And then there was more coaching opportunities in Toronto. And I went to Manchester United for 7 months as an interim assistant manager, living in England and the UK. The soccer has just brought me on a roller coaster, which brings me to the Rapids, which, I love coaching. It took me a little to get going with it early on in the career, but certainly it's a dream situation.
So paint the picture for me, please. I'd like you to go back to the emotion of young Chris in the 70s, starting to play soccer, the play of it. What did that feel like? What did that do for you? How did that change who you are as a person and how you interact with others?
Who I am now, I know is because of my family, my mom and my dad, my brothers, the culture of our family, that family dynamic, what that meant for every holiday, how important I saw what family meant to my parents, then it became important to us. And now I can see me and my brothers, how everyone's families interact and all this. So much of who I am now is what the values my parents taught me, which, if I'm being honest, it was all those things that have made the difference for me. Is the hard work, honesty, operating with integrity, thinking about others, never making excuses, do the best you can do. It was always about that, no matter what, school, soccer. But then I took those qualities into the soccer world from a young age. And soccer taught me about being responsible, to be a good teammate. I had good coaches that instilled lots of those values. So it was almost like reinforced. Mm-hmm. So I think I had a good mentality going into sport, but then soccer, team sport, does demand of you to work hard, to be all those things. And my coaches demanded it. And team sports also, it lets you put that stuff to bring it to life. It almost lets you, it's the blank canvas to say, okay, what is your picture going to look like here? But I came across a lot of selfish teammates and a lot of good ones. So I think it was my family, the values that I had. And then when I finally was able to put that, the painting at the end of it was this beautiful painting of a guy that gave to the team. I ran for the team. I was a team guy. All my teammates loved me for those reasons. I was a good player for sure, but it was because of the person who I was. Mm. But soccer, I think it does teach you teamwork and togetherness and your role within a team, that you're an important part of that pie, even if it's a small slice, that you're part of this. And the more you feel part of it, the more you'll invest in it. And so it taught me a lot. The game has given me a lot, but it's taught me a lot. Mm-hmm. But as I see kids come through now, I know it was my family that should get the credit.
So tell us a little bit more about that culture, that cultural family dynamic. So your mom is Boricua, and then your dad is from Cuba, right? Partially. Yeah. And so what did that look like at home? Like, how did that come together? Yeah. How did that shape who you are differently than someone who may have been full one or the other?
Well, my father hung out much more, like the holidays was more my mom's family. So a lot of the Puerto Rican side. So the holidays had a lot of Puerto Rican celebration. Pernil, the pork that they would make, pasteles, a lot of these, arroz con pollo, the rice and beans, the pasteles, these delicacies that were Puerto Rican. Again, the pork, the pernil that my uncle would make, and that was all Puerto Rican feel. The salsa, merengue, dancing and music. That was so. My dad, because he was my mom and dad met when they were 13 years old in school. So in the Bronx. So my mom's family really took in my dad, and my dad's family was in our life, but the holidays were largely spent. My father, it felt like you would think he was Puerto Rican. He would go to the Puerto Rican Day Parade in New York City and totally, rock the Puerto Rican feel, because he loved that culture. He was brought up kind of in that. And my mom's parents, the Puerto Rican, my grandparents, really took my dad in. So in terms of what one or the other, it was really both. Like we were proud. I'm Cuban, I'm Puerto Rican, but a lot of the feel was from the Boricua side, and I was a little bit closer to that, cultural piece. Although, that was like more the yellow rice, the rice with chicken, but the Cuban was the white rice, black beans, the thin steak, the steak that so we embraced both, but the holidays was much more where you'd see it all come alive. The in the 70s there was a lot of discrimination for Spanish people, and if you had an accent, you were considered lesser. And my parents experienced that. So they only spoke English in the house. They spoke Spanish to each other when they didn't want us to understand something, or they're having an argument or something in the car. Oh, we can't understand. But they didn't do it. They didn't want us to be held back and experience that society. But they experienced a little bit. The accent. Oh, you're Puerto Rican. Or there was some of that for sure. And we experienced a little bit of that, and we got called certain things in school. Even my brother and I. My brother was a fighter. Like he was a wrestler, so he'd get into fist fights over this stuff. I would just stay away from it. But we experienced a little bit of that. But there was always this sense of a chip on our shoulder, and my parents had that, and we ended up having that. That you have to work harder for everything. That nothing's going to be given to you, nor should it be. You have to earn everything, fight for it. This was, my dad walked to the train station 2 miles a day there on the way back. And back then, there was a lot of hitchhiking. So he would hitchhike. We would pick up people going to the beach and people in our back seat. It's crazy thought these days. But my dad, because he was one of a hitchhiker, he would empathize with people who didn't have. He would go in the neighborhood, people throwing out a little picnic table. He'd paint it, sand it. I'm like, Dad, really, we got to take this? Yes, we got to take it. So I was embarrassed to ask for money from my parents sometimes to if it was a soccer tournament or something. Like, I don't want to go. I would say I felt bad because I knew there wasn't a lot of money.
So how'd you make it work? Yeah.
But listen, it was we always had enough. My dad would work and work 2 jobs, and he was working in Manhattan as they bought a house in Long Island, $33,000 I remember, but he would get to this train station, go to the city and work in Brooks Brothers, the soup place, and a little security, and then he got a job in Long Island in the supermarkets doing security and shoplifting, and he just made it work, and for a guy that made $50,000 and then $60,000 and maybe worked his way up to $70,000 or $80,000, he saved money. He died 2 years ago. It was terrible, but from cancer. But he left my mom a little bit of money, and he always made sure. He always said, "You got to save. No matter how much you make, you got to save a little bit, and you don't waste. Shut the lights." It was always save, and I know that brought stress to our house and some arguments with my parents. But this is part of it. This is part of that household and the cultural. We ate dinner as a family. My mother always cooked, had dinner on the table for us. When my dad would come home from work, we would sit together. And my dad would always make time to play. He must have been exhausted, but he always made time for his kids. Never missed a soccer game. His boss, where he worked, always say, "No, you go to your kid's game. We'll figure it out. You can take the day off." It was always something where it was family. We went to so many soccer tournaments, family, staying in hotels with all the other families, but somehow he made it work. Sometimes we wouldn't get our report card on time. We went to a Catholic school, and because my dad thought, and my mom, maybe the local public school, we heard, my dad heard and mom heard at one point, like 99% of the kids that go to that school go on to college. It wasn't, we would go to church on the weekend for sure, but it wasn't, my dad wasn't someone reading the Bible religiously all the time, but it was good things are happening over there. The kids in my school district, not as many, there's more distractions, not as good here. Something's good going on in that situation, and they made it work. So he always ended up paying what he had to the tuition, but sometimes I'm like, why didn't I get my report card? And later on in the years in my life, I'm like, yeah, because the principal told me, because I got hired there. Yeah, because your dad always said, and he was good for it, but that would hold that back a little bit. But they made it work because we had what we needed. There was always, let's go school shopping, and you had one pair of sneakers. You didn't have lots of sneakers. You had one pair, and they get a hole in the bottom. You get another pair. Your socks coming through. Because we didn't need much. We had everything. Like I knew it then. We had everything. We had a great family. I grew up in an amazing neighborhood. Tons of kids. We were healthy. We had everything we needed. I was on a soccer team. There was always food in the house. That's how you made it work. And we had good values. So we were extremely hardworking. That's why my brothers are successful now. And my mother went back and got a degree in nursing. And she became a nurse. So she was then making a little more. As they got older, they bought a different house. They sell that one, they buy another. And they things kept getting better for my parents. But the boys have all done well, which that's a credit to my parents.
Now, do your kids speak Spanish?
My kids, both of them speak a little bit of Spanish. At their ages, they spoke more than I do. At that age, I did.
And that's what I was wondering. I mean, at that generation, which is the same generation as I am, people taught you to not have the accent, not to. They didn't want you speaking the language. My father was different. I'm Costa Rican Trinidadian, and my father would have loved for us to speak. I lived in Spain when I was little, but I had the brilliant idea that I should learn French instead. So, but then it came full circle. You and I kind of vibed on that because it's something I had to do, and I had planned to do it for years. And he unfortunately passed away as well. And once that happened, I was like, I have to do it now. Like, this is my tribute to him. Yeah. So, so I'm thinking about you talking about your family and the values and all that. And I see you treating the Rapids as a family as well and bringing all those values to that. Give us a little more of what that is like, that picture.
Well, yeah, listen, I have a certain idea in my brain and a picture in my brain of what this should all look like. And we're a professional soccer team, which, I'm here to help a football team win matches. I get it. But I think it's bigger than that. And I think winning becomes a byproduct of so many good things that you can put in place. Because it's not just, you don't just win. You have to come with an idea, a way of playing, a way of behaving inside the walls, how you treat people, how hard you work, how well do you do with the controllables, and try to tune out the things you cannot control, external. But I have this idea based on from all of my experiences as now a dad, a son, from all my experiences as being part of good teams when I was a player. I was part of championship teams. All my coaches' voices and messages are in my brain and heart somewhere. And now I've said, okay, here it is. Here's the vision. A team that plays attacking soccer, a team that puts the team first. It's a non-negotiable. And then if that's at the top of the pyramid, it's so many things being on time, being a good teammate, all those things fall under there. We have a banner in our building, team first. Guys know it. They have T-shirts made that this is what we are. We recruit good people before good players. Of course, not just good people that can't play, but good people. So again, I think it's a blueprint that I've come up with over my time and in my life as now a coach and a player. I've seen what makes good teams good. I've seen what makes the teams that don't succeed. I know the threats. So I'm constantly on the lookout for the threats, and I'm constantly trying to add all the good things. So I try to create the nurture in nature. So we try to bring good people and then put it in an environment that can be fuel on the fire. Every guy that comes across, they all want to be great. They all want to make money. They all want to win. I know what they want. I was once one of them. And I try to be fuel on the fire. So my coaching philosophy is coach the individual, to each guy, to help them become the best version that they can. Then, and that's with my coaching staff, and it's different strategies, right? Video, and each guy gets a little bit. Does this guy need love? Does he need this? Like, so coach the individual, then coach the team, how each one can fit into this team and tactics in the soccer. And then probably most importantly, put both of those things in an environment that players are comfortable, that they feel safe, yet they feel challenged, and there's standards, because I know they all want that. And then to push them as hard as I can within that environment. So, yeah, this is my philosophy, and this is how I every day. It's a consistent way of doing things, and try to build upon that every day with good energy and positivity, all the things that I once experienced when I was at my best.
So who doesn't make it on your team? Like, who wouldn't be successful with you as their coach?
Yeah, it's easy. It's the guys that think they know better, arrogance, complacency, lazy, selfish, that doesn't make it anywhere. Yeah. I promise you. But I'm on high alert for those types of behaviors. I won't say the phrase that I'll say, but try to commit. If I'm going to get rid of those things, and I see that, I get rid of it early. I've learned. Yeah. I've gotten fired from jobs when I think I'm doing pretty good work, and then you're working with guys that are not open. So the guys that are not open-minded, open-hearted, open, moldable. You have to be open to this in this sport, because we are here to take them where they can't get to on their own. What is a coach? We're just not a guy that knows tactics, but we're here to help those guys get somewhere where they can't on their own. But you can't do that if they're not open. So yeah, all the things that I talked about earlier that my parents taught me, the opposite. Again, we like the good characters. So guys that are not wired in a good way, and it doesn't mean I don't like the guys that are edgy. I actually like the guys that are edgy, that need. I say, hey, we need you. Maybe you need us equally. Come on, let's give this a shot. You can operate within this bubble. You can toe the line, but just stay on in here. This. But it's clear for me more than ever, the guys that won't make it with me, and then I quickly look to remove them from the equation. They don't deserve what we're selling, type of thing.
And you recently won an award, right?
I did.
Tell us what that felt like. Tell us about it.
I was named to the 2025 class of the Hall of Fame, National Soccer Hall of Fame. So the Colorado Rapids, they really surprised me with this one, because I had no idea. I'm on the ballot for a few years now, and I just didn't think it was going to come. I wasn't the flashiest of players. I wasn't the one that most people were talking about, but certainly I was definitely a nominee. I was on the ballot. But every year for the last, it felt like 10 years, I've not gotten selected. So I was in Denver early December. I'm in a meeting with my coaches, and this is in the off season, but we're meeting about a few things. And the boss came in, Porg Smith, and said, "Chris, yeah, can I grab you for a second? We got some photos to do out on the pitch." I said, "Of course." I said, "Guys, I'll be back." So I went out in the middle. They had some cameras set up and some photographer, and me and the club president, Porg, were doing some little media hits in midfield. I've done stuff like this before, very standard. And they had me do some little media bites, sound bites for the fans. Hey fans, thanks for everything this year. It was all a setup. So they asked me to turn around and okay, let's just look at the screen. So at the big, video screen of the stadium, I see highlights of myself playing, and was confused. I didn't know why. Why would we be looking at highlights of Chris Armas? I really didn't understand it. But then they at the same time, they had someone, Marcelo Balboa is a local, ex-Colorado Rapid player. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's a iconic soccer figure who I know, but a Denver guy, starts talking on the screen at the same time. He's like, "Hey, Chris, just out here hiking. I saw people walking and it was my whole family. The Rapids, somehow, without me knowing, my mother, my brothers, their wives, their children, my wife, my boys. They flew everyone out, had them there the night before to come there, and then it kept going. And he says, well, Chris, it's been a long road. You're going to get into the Hall of Fame. So it all came together once in that very moment. I mean, I was blown away. I couldn't even keep it together, if I'm being honest.
So I imagine, and I saw the clip of it. Yes, it looked overwhelming.
It was.
And that's amazing. So, okay, as we close out, in 1 minute,
Okay.
your top 3 tips for that kid who's loving the sport, the camaraderie, the family of soccer, and bringing all of who he or she is to the field to attain the heights such as you've attained. What would be the advice that you give them?
I would say, I have a minute. I think I got it. I think the first would be the most important of the 3, which is be a good teammate / person. That you will not make it if you don't take that advice. Be a good teammate. Second, figure out along the way what you're really good at. What's your superpower? You all have it. Every player has something. Some are really fast. Some can score goals. Some can run longer. Some are just more technical. Figure out with your coaches, your parents, yourself, what is your superpower in the sport. And then every day just work as hard as you can until you get there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That was wonderful.
Thank
you
you.
also made me tear up. I could feel the emotion about your award.
It was. I'm honestly, I'm a person who, it's not all the time that people are doing something like that nice for me, and people are always nice to me. But that was a big. Forget the Hall of Fame for a second. I wouldn't say that to diminish the award, but the fact that the Rapids went ahead and brought my mom, my brothers. It's a big deal that they did that. And they thought that to surprise me in this way, that meant a lot. It meant a lot. So, I'll never forget that, for that they did that for me. And it was one of the most special days of my life, if I'm being honest, because of what what it all meant, right? The people that I've, again, to get here, I've been through a lot of different hurdles. And I've always just said, I trust. You can't get there by going through some of this adversity, some of the ups, some of the didn't make sense in that moment, but it will make sense at some point. And in that moment, it did make a lot of sense to say, I'm in the right place. The Rapids have found me, and I have found the Rapids, and they're seeing something in me. They would never have done this for me if they didn't think highly of me. And they might be the same people that fire me one day, but in that moment, it meant a lot. It went a long way for me, so.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And
thank you so much.
It was a pleasure to have you
nice.
here today in the Music Suite at the Elizabeth
Really
Hotel.
cool.
And I hope you are inspired by his journey and his cultural background, his family, and how he brings that all together in soccer, and how you too can live truly, authentically you, and embrace your cultural passions. Thanks for being part of the Destinations Podcast family. We're so glad you're here, and you can help us grow as well. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, whether you're listening or watching. And make sure that we bring you content that helps you not only be truly, authentically you, but helps you embrace your cultural passions.